stand together, we'll never fall. We can make a difference.
Hi there, and welcome back to another episode of the All Around Growth Podcast. My name is Rob Kaiser, and I am your host. Today is Tuesday, August 29th, 2023. This is episode number 513 of a show where you join me as I learn how to build a life and homestead of my dreams here at York Meadow Farm. And today is an episode not unlike many other episodes in the past, but it's going to be a little bit different because we're going to go for a bit of a walk this morning. I'm just going to walk around the homestead, enjoy the coffee, and talk. The past few weeks have been a little bit different in that I have not maintained the same production schedule as I have for the past few months. For the past few months, it's really been a bit of a grind. There's been a lot of change and transition here on the homestead, especially with Dad's passing. There was already a lot of change and transition scheduled for this year, moving into the new year. This was the first year that we did a consistent winter market that started in January and went every other week in January, February, and March. And the last winter market ended on March 11th, 2023, and Dad and I were at that market together. That was at Boyert's Greenhouse and Farm. And what's strange is that was April, May, June, July. All right, that was just 5 months ago. Just over 5 months ago, Dad and I were at a farmer's market together. And just a couple weeks after that market, he was taken to the hospital. Or suggested to go to the hospital after going to the urgent care for what we thought was just a lingering cold. Here we are 5 months later. Dad has since passed. I mean, we all know that. If you listen to the show routinely, you are aware of the fact that Dad's passed away and are aware of some of the other changes that has accompanied that. And a lot of the change has just been trying to adjust to a new way of life. And the reality is, it's been a big adjustment over the past few months, but it's been a big adjustment over the past year and 15 months since leaving my day job. And really, let's just call it 18 months, because there was some pretty significant changes in thought process over the winter 2 winters ago. I was preparing to leave my job mentally, getting everything together that I needed to get together in order to do that. I hadn't communicated it out yet. It was just something that I was thinking about doing during the 2022 season, and really planning on doing it at the end of the season, late last year. When you make a plan, plans change. And that plan changed, and I ended up leaving my job considerably earlier than expected, and I did so in May of last year. And what was nice about that is that it gave me an entire market season to work with Dad, and I'm very grateful for the changes that took place because, like I said, Dad's no longer with us. He's in a better place, and we're all making the adjustments and, learning how to live a little bit differently now. During the time that he was sick, all throughout, really just a couple days in or towards the end of March, April, and May, everything in the kitchen went on hold. I think during that time, I maybe completed or made, one, maybe 2 batches of curtido just to work through these extra onions that I had and make sure they were put to good use. Outside of that, I did nothing. And so for the first couple of months after Dad passed away, it was time to, the markets had already started by the time Dad passed away. The very first farmer's market, if I'm not mistaken, was on his birthday, the day that he passed. May have been the week prior, I'm not sure, I can't really remember. But after his death and the funeral and, a little bit of time had passed, it was time to get to work. It was time to resume operations in the kitchen, and for the bulk of the month of June and July, and really up until just a couple of weeks ago in early August, we were grinding. There was a lot of work to be done. We got into a new retail location, Keller Meats. We had dabbled with them before in the past, and Keller Meats has continued to grow as a business and look into getting new vendors and make changes, and they welcomed us back with open arms after Dad's passing, and we are very grateful for that. And then shortly thereafter, we were approached by another retailer in Cuyahoga Falls. And, to keep up with the demand at the 3 various retail locations that we're technically in 4, but one of them is, it's kind of, I don't know. We support them and they support us, but his store is, it's just not as prolific as the others in terms of sales, and so I'm just going to call it 3. But we're getting towards the end of the market season. Kids are back in school. Things are changing. There are maybe 6 farmers markets left at this point, and then we've got a bit of a break. And there are a couple small events that are coming up. I just got invited to a fundraiser for Whispering Acres Farm Sanctuary. I'll link to them in the show notes, but that's going on Friday, October 13th. And technically that would be 1 week after the market season ends, but we will not be participating in the final week of the farmers market this year, because that day, or rather the day prior, we will be taking Dad's ashes to Western Reserve National Cemetery, where there will be a service for his internment, and his ashes will be placed there. And basically for Friday and Saturday, we're just going to have some time together as a family, because that will be, in a sense, the final closure of this saga of Dad's life. It will also be that Friday, October 6th, will be Mom and Dad's 50th, or what would have been Mom and Dad's 50th wedding anniversary. So it's going to be a somber, bittersweet day, and we're all going to simply spend time together as a family. So we won't be attending that market. We will be attending this event on Friday, October 13th. And it was just brought to my attention last night by Ben from Richardson Farms that there is a sauerkraut festival going on all the way down in Waynesville. And Waynesville is approximately a 3-hour drive from here. It's down towards Dayton. I'm going to link to this sauerkraut festival as well. But what I learned about this sauerkraut festival is that it's called the Ohio Sauerkraut Festival, and it draws approximately 460 craft vendors from over 25 states and features a menu of nearly 60 sauerkraut themed food items. And it's a weekend long event, and there are going to be booths lining Main Street, shopping and more. And I think that's going to be a good thing to look into, but maybe not this year, because it is in less than 2 months, and I'm not entirely certain that it might be something that I go and check out, but not necessarily attend as a vendor. I'm not entirely sure. It would probably be wise of me to go down there for a day and explore for several reasons. Just to connect with people in the business, talk to some people that might be better equipped to help us grow and expand, and basically talk shop on how to do that. I've got some ideas, but exactly the best way to do that, I'm not really sure. In terms of the growth and development of the business, one of the things that when I say we, in large part this is me, one of the things that's being executed upon is the rebranding. It was sort of a soft introduction of the new name, Natural Ferments, for the fermented food line, and people are getting accustomed to referring to our fermented food products here at York Meadow Farm as Natural Ferments. And that's good. That was the point. For example, the market manager, Angela, from the Medina Square Farmers Market, was recently interviewed on a morning news show called New Day Cleveland. And she was talking about the farmers market, and it was a bit of a promo for last weekend's event, which was Customer Appreciation Day. And she brought in several products from different vendors, and she was lucky enough to feature one of our products, our fermented mustard, and give us a little bit of a shout out there on the show. And that was very nice of her to do. And she referred to us as Natural Ferments at York Meadow Farm. And so the next logical step in fully introducing the brand is to have a logo created and build out a website. And I think what we're going to do is continue utilizing the York Meadow Farm store for online orders, and have York Meadow Farm serve as the home base for operations taking place here. That makes sense because we've got the advanced commerce business plan on the website, which allows for the online store and allows for a number of other things. And the show may ultimately be a part of that as well. I don't know. This show, we still don't really have an official website for the show, for this podcast, but I don't approach this show like a lot of other people approach content creation. This has really been something that I do almost like a journal of sorts, but it's public and it's out there. And the objective is basically for me to share my life experiences with you for your entertainment, so that we can connect with other people who are trying to do similar things, to get inspired by one another, with one another, to support one another when we're doing things that put us outside of our comfort zone, when we need support. And over the past few years, that's exactly what has taken place. We've got a small, tight-knit community through social media, specifically Telegram, which you can join at t.me/allaroundgrowth. And while I continue to post content and episodes and descriptions on Facebook and Instagram, I haven't really gone out of my way to grow those accounts and promote the show, because that's, I don't know, that's not really what I'm interested in doing. I don't really view myself as a content creator, so I don't approach the podcast like most content creators do. And that kind of begs the next question. I mean, last week we talked about why we do what we do. And I know why I do what I do. And to get to the point where I am with this life and this journey, I've put together a plan. And I talked last week about how, as I formulate the new plan, how I might go about doing that. And as I previously mentioned earlier, the past couple weeks have been different because the approach towards work has changed. And it's changed because, like I said, the market season is slowing down, but it's also changed because some new additions to the homestead will be taking place. We're going to have chickens sometime soon. Now, it looks like the chickens may actually go from point A, where they are, my friend Ben from church, to Ethan's place, or his parents' place, where they keep chickens, and then they might ultimately come here. In the meantime, we are going to build out a mobile chicken coop, an eggmobile, based on plans that come from Joel Salatin. And those plans, now, as I began to look into the best plans for an eggmobile, I realized that, if you were to type into your search engine of choice, hay wagon eggmobile, you would find pages and pages and pages and pages of photos and search results and blog posts and design options. And it got a little overwhelming when I did that. So I reached out to some other Telegram groups, and like, for example, I reached out to Toolman Tim's group. And I'll link to his group in the show. I reached out to the Lifesteading group, which is Amy Dingman's group from A Farmish Kind of Life. And I'll link to her information in the show notes as well. And last but not least, I reached out to the Living Free in Tennessee community. And it was there in Nicole's group that I connected with Dawn, who provided me with the plans that she used. And Dawn, shout out to Dawn, formerly of Ohio, has since moved down to Tennessee and is more active in that group. And I had previously connected with her here in and through the Freedom Cell communities. And for those of you who aren't aware of Freedom Cells, I'll go ahead and link to that as well. I've done an episode on that in the past. That was the last time I checked, still is one of the top 5 episodes. And I've been thinking about, when it comes to celebrating 3 years of the show next month, maybe doing a recap of the top 5 episodes and linking to them, listening to them, and kind of providing updates on the top 5 episodes. But we'll see what happens. But anyways, I got these plans from her, and I'm looking forward to moving forward and making progress with the teardown of this hay wagon. And I'm going to try to capture some video of it and document the process. I started doing a little bit of teardown last night, not last night, but yesterday rather. And it's going to be tough because this wagon is so old and so rotted that the bolts are just, it's a mess. So a lot of the bolts, when I begin unscrewing or attempting to unscrew the nuts, they just snap out, they rot, and a lot of them are just frozen together. So I can't really unscrew the bolt because it's locked up, or I can't really unscrew the nut because it's locked up with the bolt. So we'll see how it goes. I'm trying to save a lot of the metal because a lot of the metal rods that are keeping the wood frame to everything attached, that's all good. That can possibly be reused at some point in the future. For what, I'm not entirely sure, but we've decided that we're going to keep that and scrap the wood, keep the metal, and see what we can do with it, if anything. It's really not going to be more than just a crate of parts, but just more junk to throw in the barn, right? And actually, I think that's what I'll do. I'll take a picture of this old wagon, and that will be the cover art for today's episode. So, there's just a little bit of a little coffee walk, Homestead update. Lots of change and transition this year, lots of change and transition this month. And really, in terms of this, and lots of change and transition in my own personal life, in conjunction with and outside of everything that is talked about on this show, career, all of that. You know, I've made some big changes with regard to my diet. You know, what I consume, and more specifically, what I no longer consume. I've eliminated, you know, all alcohol and mind-altering substances in any way, shape, or form, and I began that last year, and that's really dramatically altered my perspective on life, how I view things, the clarity of thought that I have, and quite frankly, even to the point of the people I interact with. Some view, I don't know how some view it. You know, most people have been supportive of what I've done and why I've done it. And others, I don't know. I don't talk to them that much anymore. It's all good. That's just the nature of life, right? Sometimes we form connections, and sometimes you've got people in your life that just walk away. And that's cool. That's life. You know, me, I try to spend time and be around people who, not so much I have things in common with, but people who have something that I want, right? And I say that not in a selfish way. It's like, hey, how do I get this thing that you have? But more so in a way like, how can I learn from you so that I can work towards achieving something similar in my life that's appropriate for the context of my life? And a lot of these people, they're not homesteaders. They're not, you know, they're not small business owners. They're really not like me in any way, shape, or form, but they have something that I want, which is, you know, peace of mind, serenity, a calm disposition about them. And that's something that I've been lacking for a long time. You know, really the first few years of the show, it wasn't there. I maybe put on an air of this idea that I knew what was going on or whatever. But even though I've always been very clear about the fact that I don't. And a lot of this was a journey on discovering how to do that. Well, part of that journey was to, stop doing some of the things that I was doing and start doing things that I've never done before. And so how does that tie into what I was previously talking about in terms of a plan? Well, in some ways it doesn't, but in other ways it very much does. And when I say it doesn't, there's no real actionable steps that I'm taking to, at least at this point, to create a new plan. But what I am doing is I'm increasing my consciousness, if you will, and my understanding that nothing is going to change if nothing changes, right? Nothing changes if nothing changes. But the one thing that has changed is my understanding that in the past I've tried to, run life on my terms, through my will, and trying to force life in many ways. And that hasn't really worked out for me. And there's been an increased understanding and comprehension of, letting go and letting God, if you will, and turning it over. Simply saying things like, thy will be done, and there's a fine line of just saying, like that old country song or whatever, Jesus take the wheel. Well, you can't really do that. You can't be driving down the highway and just let go and say, Jesus take the wheel. I can't do this anymore. No. You have to continue to try. You have to continue to function. But for me, what that means is, may thy will be done, is understand that sometimes the results that come from the actions that I take aren't necessarily the results that I want. But nevertheless, I have to accept them. And if I choose to learn from them, that's great. Then I can adjust accordingly. If I just get upset and don't make changes, then I'm just in the same place that I've been for so long. If nothing changes, nothing changes. So trying to find some balance in life with this new perspective of, kind of, may thy will, not mine, be done, while learning how to do new things, like this chicken coop with new people like Ben, it's a balancing act. And I almost didn't record today's show because, I thought, well, I've got all these things to do. I was back in the kitchen yesterday making some preparations for another batch of jalapeno cilantro sauerkraut, and I'm going to be back in the kitchen today doing some packing of product, maybe pack some kimchi, pack some traditional, and later on tonight I think I'm going to be meeting someone for coffee or for dinner from the church, and I'm excited to do that. So there's a lot to do. And lately, over the past few weeks, with things being the way they have, I've allowed myself to sleep in a little bit more. I've allowed myself to rest more. And I'm not gonna lie, guys, that's been real nice. It's been real nice to feel rested and rejuvenated, and basically, continue on this path of trying to figure out what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, because I've got a pretty clear understanding of why. And now it's a matter of, figuring out how, or continuing this process of doing it. And so oftentimes that consists of simply, doing the next right thing and not really having much of a plan at all. For the past few months, my plan has consisted of little else other than, in the Telegram group, I think this began with Letty sharing a picture of her coffee mug and her 3 things, like hashtag mugshot, hashtag my 3 things. And so my plans have consisted of little else other than, what I've got in store for that day. And more often than not, I may not even get those 3 things done in their entirety. And it's helped, even this little act of sharing a picture of my coffee mug and what I'm thinking that morning about what I'm going to do that day has helped me clarify what I'm doing on that day and why I'm doing it, and And that in its own right has been very helpful. So big shout out to Letty from the Liberty All Day blog for sharing that with us and bringing that to the group. It's been pretty cool. You know, we've got a lot of good people in that group, a lot of good people in our community and the greater communities at large, those that I mentioned and others, many of which have come from the Survival Podcast community. So I'll link to everything that I mentioned in today's show in the show notes. But I think for now, after going for a little bit of a morning stroll over my cup of coffee here, I'm going to wrap it up and get this episode uploaded and get to work in the kitchen. So with that, guys, I just want to say thank you for tuning in to another episode of the All Around Growth Podcast. I very much appreciate you joining me on this journey. I appreciate you being a part of the show. I hope you have a wonderful day and a wonderful week ahead. Thank you, and God bless.
What can I do? The needs are many and answers a few. People turn away and I wonder why. If I can help somebody, then I want to try. People may think that it's odd that I believe in friendship and love. And truth is always the best way to the world that may seem odd. I'm an odd fellow. I'm an odd fellow. Whoa, whoa. I'm an odd fellow. If we stand together, we'll never fall. We can make a difference and answer the call. You know the times are wasting every day, and we can help somebody along the way. People may think that it's odd that I believe in friendship and love. Truth is always the best way to the world that may seem odd. I'm an odd fellow. You're an